Hello students and welcome back to Mechanical Engineering Practice and Graphics. This week we're going to cover the chapter number 3 of the book. First, I would like to remind you that we are in the third week of the semester, and therefore we have our second homework for this week. Also that in the next week we're going to have our first quiz. The quiz is going to be about the two classes that we have had so far. So it will be something really easy, something similar to what we're going to do today. First of all, I'm going to start by doing the last homework, just for you to know or solve some of those questions that were happening when you were doing the first homework. Since I already did the first one, I'm just going to continue with the other three. I would like to point here that these lines that are marking the center of the arcs and the circles, those are lines for construction, and it's not mandatory for you to mark them all the time. You can just use them if you want or not, but this is more in the blueprints to highlight that they are showing the center of either an arc or a circle. And the same goes for this line for construction here. So you can either do them or not. It's just an extra information in the drawing. Okay, without further talk, I'm gonna start by doing the first homework. I've opened SolidWorks and then I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna start with the one on the right. Since this geometry is symmetric from this line, I can use this line as axis to reproduce 1/2 of the geometry. So I'm gonna just draw 1/2 and then I'm gonna use the mirror tool to create the other half. First, I'm gonna select the front plane and then I'm gonna click here in the sketch module. I'm gonna click in sketch. It will show me the origin marked by those two red arrows and this point right here. They're showing me the positive direction for the x-axis and the y-axis. Then I'm gonna create two center lines that are for construction and infinite. One of them is gonna be horizontal. I'm gonna click OK, and then the other one is gonna be vertical, just like that. Now, as you see, these two lines are fully defined. They are black because first they are infinite, so they don't have any length related to them, but also they have a position that it's marked by that origin, the center point. And the thing here is that we have these two boxes that are showing us the relations for those lines. Those boxes means that this line is vertical. See that when I move my mouse on top of that icon, the vertical line becomes pink, and the same goes for the horizontal line. Now, these other two boxes that are saying coincident, they mean that these lines are going through that point that was at the beginning. And the secret to to have a fully defined sketch is that every line and every point must be traceable from the origin. So you must know all the correct coordinates in x and y and z from any point and any line. So, for example, if I draw a line anywhere in space, I can define the length of that line, but still the line is gonna be blue because I can still move it around. as you see. I can also define the angle by using the Smart Dimension tool here. I click first on the line, then in a different line, it can be any horizontal or vertical line, and then I can click again where I want to put the angle. So I can measure this angle, but also I can measure this other angle. Remember that they are equivalent. So look that even when I have defined the angle and the length of this line, I can still move the line around. And that's because I haven't fixed the position of this. So in order to define the position of this line, for example, I can add a relation between this point and any line. We can add a relation between lines and points, and I'm going to show you again how to do that. You go here where it says display and delete relations. There is a small arrow down here. You click that and then you will see the add relation tool. And then I'm going to select this point. As you see, it will be highlighted here in the selected entities. And then I'm going to select this line here. I'm going to define that they both are coincident. And that's okay. The other way to add relations is I can either click the point, then holding shift in my keyboard, select a different line, for example. And if you see, now those two, the point and the line, are here in this list. And then I can add another relation between them. So with those relations, you will see that the ending point of this line must be coincident to the horizontal line and to the vertical line. And the only point where that happens is at the origin. Also, I have defined the length of the line, and see what happens if I delete, for example, this angle. So I'm gonna click this angle. I'm gonna press delete in my keyboard, but now I can still move it around. And that's because the angle was defining the position of this other point. I can also define a vertical distance here, for example, and that will be it. Now, sometimes when you add too many relations and too many dimensions, let's suppose that I'm going to add another distance here, I'm going to get this error message. And what this error message is telling me is that adding one more dimension to the drawing will overdefine the drawing. So it will ignore one of those dimensions. So I can define either to make this dimension the 38.73 driven dimension or the driving dimension. So this can be this can be more important than the 40 millimeters or the other way around. So whenever that happens, you will see that one dimension or maybe several is going to be in light gray color. And that means that that dimension is being driven by something else. I can just delete this one and still the drawing will be fully defined. So if you see this fully defined sign here, that's good. You can finish your sketch. Also, some people were asking me again how to define the millimeters, grams, and second in SolidWorks. Down here, you just click here and you will see the different unit systems that are available here. In this course, we're going to be working in millimeters, grams, and second. Okay, I'm going to delete this line. I'm going to just ignore that warning message because the objective is to reproduce the first homework. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to start somewhere else in the space. I'm not going to even try to make it beautiful. something like that. Because what I would like to show you here is that with the relations, I can avoid defining too many dimensions. So for example, this one must be horizontal. As you see, there is an existing parallel relation between this line and this line. I can delete relations as well, just clicking in the box and then click delete your keyboard. Now if you see this drawing, this line in the bottom is collinear with this other line. So I can define that relation as well. Here we have a whole list of different relations that we can add between lines. We can say that both of them are horizontal, but they already are, or vertical. In this case, I want to define that they are collinear. You can also define that if they are perpendicular, parallel, or if they measure the same distance. Please avoid using the fix. It will just fix something in the space, and that can create a lot of trouble, so just avoid using the fix relation. Now, all these three lines, all of them are vertical, and then these two actually measure the same, so they both are equal, making this horizontal, right? Now what I'm gonna do is this point and the origin, they're gonna be coincident, they're gonna be the same point, and by doing so I'm defining this line, at least the position, not the length. If you see, I can still move this point around. Okay, I can start adding some dimensions now. I'm gonna start with this 30 because this is a nice trick that I need you to learn. Since I'm drawing only one half of this sketch, I should put only 15. But then I can use this line, which is gonna be a mirror. And if I put the dimension here, it should be 15. But if I move it to the other side, I can make it 30. Because it is going all the way to the other side. Now this other one is 10, also this one. 10 millimeters. Also 10 millimeters here. No worries when something like this happens. You are adding dimensions and maybe you see that the drawing was missed or was disorganized. So what I can do is I deactivated the Smart Dimension tool by clicking Escape in the keyboard. So I can just take any part in the drawing and move it around. Some of you were asking me regarding these decimal points. You can leave them. You can also modify the style of these dimensions. If you click on one of those dimensions, you will see all these different controls here. You can decrease the number of decimal positions, like no decimal positions. You can add tolerances. Suppose that this distance can be between 30 and 32 millimeters. So you can do that. We're gonna discuss this topic later in the semester, so just ignore this for now. But I'm just letting you know that you can add more things to the dimensions. You can also add icons if you want. You just have to move this or delete this. Here I can even write my name if I want. So there are many things that you can do here. You can define this other kind of tolerance, for example, 30 millimeters plus or minus 2. Okay. You can change the kind of the arrows if you want. I'm just gonna leave the one that is by default. Okay. Now I need to make this one shorter. If you see, this line is still blue, even when I have defined the length for that line. Remember that I have to define not only the length but also the position. And in this case, for me to know what do I need to define, I just try to move it around. If you see, I cannot move it neither left or right. So the X position is fixed, but then the Y position is not fixed. So I have to define that. And that distance is again 10 millimeters. So I'm gonna use the Smart Dimension tool. I can either define this line as 10 millimeters, or I can click in this line and then this other line here and then here, and it's the same. Here I'm just defining the vertical distance. Now, some of you were asking me how to measure an angle. An angle, remember that you have to use two lines to measure an angle. So you just, using the Smart Dimension tool, you just click the first line, and then you can use any vertical line. So I can use this one, or I can even use this one. And if you see, this will use the extension of those lines. It's the same if I go for the other one, as you see. The other distance that I have is the vertical distance between this horizontal line and this corner here. So I'm gonna select this line and then the corner. If you see, the dot is orange. And then if I move my mouse to the right, I can write that distance, which is also 10 millimeters. Now all I need to define is the total height of this drawing, which is, well, from this corner to the end in the bottom, it's 40 millimeters. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna select from this point to the bottom, we have 40 millimeters. As you see, everything is defined here. All I need is to do the circle. Now, for this circle, as you see, the extension of this vertical position or these vertical lines for constructions, it will cross this line here and also this point here. So just to show you that, I'm gonna do a line for construction that is infinite, that goes through that point. And then I'm gonna move this circle. As you see, this line goes through the circle and then goes through this corner. So I can use the line to define that position, or even better, I can add a relation. between this point and this point. And that relation is that they both are vertical aligned, as you see. Now that will fix the X position of that circle, but I still need to fix the Y position. And the Y position is actually aligned with this other corner, so I can do that. As you see, the circle is still blue, not because I can move it, because now it is fixed using that point in the top and this other point on the right, but because I can change the size and the diameter of that circle. So I just have to check this size here. The 2x means that there are two circles with the same diameter, this one on the right and this one on the left. So just by defining the one on the right, and since I'm gonna use the mirror tool, the one on the left is gonna be defined as well. Okay, it's almost done. All I need to do now is this geometry here in the center. As you see, in this case, I was having more cautious. I was doing the lines horizontally and vertically from the beginning, so I don't have to define those relations. They are already defined. Now we have to define the shape, the size. Again, I'm gonna use this line for the mirror. Then this one is also 10. And this one is only 5. And the position is 15 millimeters from the bottom. This bottom here from this line here. So I click this line, then I click this other line, and this is 15. As you see, everything is fully defined, so I can just use the mirror entities. I'm gonna select I'm gonna go back and do that again. Here in the top, we have this option that is called the mirror entities. And then I need to select all the entities that I'm gonna mirror, all these lines. I can also do a selection box like that. And then I'm gonna click here in the mirror about option. This one becomes blue, and then I can select this line here. And then I'm gonna create a copy. Then I click OK, and the drawing is done. At this point, I should open the Snipping Tool. I just right here is Snipping Tool, and then I create a screenshot which I can paste in a Word document. And then I can exit this sketch. I can also do a second screenshot here. And paste that one here as well. So in the case that you exit the sketch and you forgot to take the screenshot, you can always come back. You just come here to this list of activities, and you will see that every time you do a new sketch, it will be added below. So in this one, you can right click on that, and then the first option here is edit sketch, and then I will see the sketch again. Now if you want to hide all of those relations because they are so messy, you can click here in this eye, and then this option here says view sketch relations. You click there and they are deactivated, so you can take that screenshot. Now I'm gonna exit this sketch. I'm gonna save this file. Let's suppose that I'm gonna save it just in the desktop, and let's say that I'm in lecture 3. My ABC123 is LJK354, and then this was the homework 1, and let's suppose that this is the second file of the homework, and I can just click save. And for the Word document, I can do the same. L3, LJK354, homework 1, second file, and here I can, let's keep the Word document. Alright, I'm gonna create now a new document for the next drawing. I'm gonna continue with this one. Using the front plane, I'm gonna create a new sketch. Since you've seen how the process that I have followed to do the first one, I guess I'm gonna continue with this one a little bit faster. You already know this part, so I'm just gonna do it fast. And in this one, I'm gonna define that the origin, that center is gonna be here in the center of the circle. So I'm gonna start by that. This circle is 20 in diameter. And then we have another one, which is radius equal 20. Now remember that the diameter is twice the radius. So in this one, the diameter is going to be 40. And again, in this one, I'm going to do only 1/2 because this is symmetric from this plane. So I'm going to continue with the right side of the drawing. From here, I just draw a vertical line, then a horizontal line. Like that. Then I'm gonna add those dimensions, 20 and 10 here. This one is 20. This one is 10. Escape. I'm gonna drag this one up. Then this one is 5. And then we have 10 here and 100 in total. 10 here and 100 in total. Okay, now I'm gonna do a mirror entities, but in this case I'm not gonna mirror the circles because they are already full. So I'm gonna mirror only these lines. Using this axis here. And then I'm gonna delete this bottom part of this circle. To do so, I can use the trim entities tool that is up here. It's like a scissors cutting one line. And then I'm gonna draw whatever crosses what I'm drawing, that's gonna be deleted. So I'm gonna draw here, and then I'm gonna draw here. And that's it. I can take the second screenshot. Or the screenshot for this part. Paste it here. Also this one, just in case. And then I can save this one. And also I can save the Word document. Now for the last one, I'm gonna define that the origin is here in this corner. You may ask, why do I select those points to define the origin? You can do whatever you want, actually. It can be this center, it can be this corner, any corner. I think it's just easier if you use a corner to define the origin of the drawing. So that's what I do. In this one, we don't have a symmetry axis, so I have to do the entire geometry. So I'm gonna start with this. Now the first thing is that this line here in the top, it's collinear to this line here. So I should add that relation there. I click the first one, shift in the keyboard, then the second one, and then I press collinear here. Hit OK. I'm gonna show the relations so we can see that. And then we have 150 here. $20 and $15, $20 here, $15 here, $35 and $25, but we don't have this length. That means that we can move this line around. Now here we have an arc, and therefore these 2 points must be at the same level. That's why I move it until I see that this continuous line there. And for that arc, I'm gonna use a 3-point arc. I'm gonna select this point here, this point here, and then I'm gonna do the arc like this, because it is obvious that the center of that arc must be at the same level. So that means that this point, and this point must be collinear. So I'm gonna select those 3 points and define that they 3 are horizontal. And then I just need to add the other circle there, which is 30 and 60. And now I can also add another relation here between this circle and this line. They both are tangent, and the same goes for this arc and this line. And I need to define this height here, 40 millimeters, from this center to this bottom line, 40 millimeters. And that fully defines this sketch. So I can take the screenshot now, paste it in the Word document, I'm gonna save this one as well. And now that I have all the screenshots in my Word document, I can go in File, Export, Create PDF. I'm gonna change this name here. And that's it. I have the PDF file. All right, I'm gonna create a new file here, so we can continue with the class. I already showed to you how to trim entities or how to delete a portion of a line using those scissors, the trim entities tool. So I'm gonna skip this one. I also showed to you how to use the mirror entities. I was taking advantage of the axis of symmetry of the geometry that I was doing in the first homework. And basically that is for you to save time. You can just model one half of the model and then use mirror entities to create the whole model. So since we already did this, I'm gonna skip this part as well. But I'm gonna show you how to do this, okay? So I'm gonna create, let's try to create the same geometry. I'm gonna create a new sketch in the front plane. And then anywhere, I'm just gonna do something quick. So I'm gonna use a spline here. I'm gonna mirror this using this center. Okay. And now I'm gonna go to Features, and I'm gonna click the first option that is called Extrude. I'm gonna create an extrusion of this sketch here. I can either select the sketch on the list, or I can just click the sketch, and then we can increase the size or the depth of that extrusion. We can change the kind of direction. So instead of extruding to one single direction, it can just extrude the same in the two directions. You can also create a draft, so something like this. It will extrude with an angle from that section that you created. You can also create thin features. Something like this. Something that has a thickness. I'm gonna edit this one. So to edit an extrusion, as you see, the extrusion has, it's here listed in the operations, but then it's related to one sketch, which is the line that I draw at the beginning. Control 7. And then if I need to modify that sketch, I can just deploy this arrow here and then click the sketch, right click, and the first option, edit sketch, and then I can modify this. So I don't know, let's suppose that I need to make it thinner here, and then exit the sketch. Automatically it will update all the geometry. Also I can modify the extrusion operation. Let's suppose that I don't want to do the draft. I just need a straight extrusion like that, and it will be updated. Now, we were using the symmetry axis when we were doing drawings, but we can do the same whenever we do three-dimensional bodies. So for example, in this case, I can use this plane as a symmetry plane. We just have to use the mirror tool that is down here, and then we can select the whole extrusion. It's already selected in the features to mirror, but then it's asking me the mirror plane, which is gonna be this one here, and then I can click OK. And now we have a complete symmetric part. So in a nutshell, we learned how to do extrusions, how to, from a two-dimensional drawing like that, a closed loop. We learned that we can create an extrusion, and from that extrusion we can also do mirrors and use the symmetry axis for that. Here I'm just explaining the different steps to do a mirror pattern. And for example, in this geometry, instead of doing the whole eye, let's suppose this is a beam, I can just model 1/4 of that, and then I can use this horizontal symmetry and also the vertical symmetry, using the horizontal line and the vertical line to create the whole profile. Let's do this one. I guess this one is also useful. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to create new sketch. This time I'm going to use the top plane. I'm just drawing a circle starting from the center, and then following the vertical direction, I'm going to do 2 circles, and then this line here, and this line here. And I'm gonna trim this portion here, and in this case I'm gonna do a pattern, a circular pattern. For this pattern I'm gonna use this circle and these lines here, and I'm gonna use only only 3 patterns like that, and then I'm gonna exit this sketch. Now I'm gonna click this sketch, and then I'm gonna go to features, and in the first option, extrusion, and it's asking me the selected contour. Now since I have several closed loops, it's asking me, okay, which contour do you want to extrude? And in this case I want to extrude this one. Let's make it less, and then I want to make it thin, something. To change the direction, I can click here in reverse direction, so I will create the thickness inside. I can also switch the extrusion direction, then I'm gonna click OK. Now using that same sketch that I did at the beginning, as you see I deployed the sketch here, I'm gonna create a second extrusion, and this time I'm gonna select these contours like that. So we have somehow this geometry that I was showing here, but now let's suppose that I need to do the same, these 3 geometries at the other end of this cylinder. So what I can do is I can create a new sketch using this plane, that blue plane there. Then I click here in the sketch. I'm gonna press Ctrl 8, and then I'm gonna use the convert entities tool that is up here, and then using the convert entities tool is asking me which entities do I want to convert. I'm gonna select all of this and then click OK. And what it has done is that it has copied those profiles of those geometries in this plane in which I am doing the sketch. I forgot to do also the circles here, these circles. And then I'm gonna click OK. So as you see, it's the same geometry but in a different plane. So I can just exit this sketch, create a new extrusion, but to the other direction, and that's it. We have completed that. So that's the purpose of convert entities, to copy geometries in a different plane. Offset entities. Okay, I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna use the front plane to create a new sketch. I can just click the plane and then here, and I'm gonna do just a square, a rectangle like this. And then the offset entities allows me to do let me see. To add geometries either inside or outside. I'm gonna use 5 millimeters. Like to create like a thickness for this. I'm gonna just exit this sketch and then create an extrusion of that drawing. That's the purpose of offset entity, just to create the same geometry with an offset. You can copy curves or just single lines or complete loops as I did. Remember that I copy the whole rectangle. It was a complete loop. Here I was showing how to edit either sketches or extrusion operations. Remember that here on the list you just have to right click in the mouse in the operation that you want to edit, and then here the first option is edit, both for the sketches and the operations. Okay, fillets. It's up here, and the purpose of fillets is to soften edges. Okay, I'm gonna modify this sketch, Control 8. I'm gonna delete all of this, then exit, so I have a block, and then I'm gonna do the fillet. The fillet, as I said, is just for softening edges. You can also create chamfers. Let's see the full preview of that. Can make it larger, change the angle. In fillets, I can also select several edges at the same time. Something like this. And I can even select 3 faces. Something like this. I just have to click here in full round, and then I select these 3 different faces. But it's not working because of this previous fillet that I did. So I'm gonna delete this one, and then I'm gonna show you the other one that I was trying. And you can create 3 faces fillet as well. So you can do that also in a sketch. I'm gonna create a new part just to show you that. Here we will find either sketch fillet or chamfers. We select one corner, we can increase the size, or we can also do chamfers. Like that. Alright, I already show you this. Patterns, we already did one circular pattern, so in this case I'm gonna do just the linear pattern of this entire geometry. We can create like a chessboard. So this is also to reduce time. When you're doing one geometry, you don't have to do all the same geometry so many times. You can just copy the geometry several times, and you can do either this chess pattern or the circular pattern that I did before for this geometry. Remember that we did a pattern like in a circle, which is what I'm showing here. Okay, the last thing that I'm gonna show today is how to do a revolution. A revolution, the difference between an extrusion is that instead of creating like straight geometries, in this one you are creating cylindrical geometries. So I'm gonna create a new file, and then I'm gonna use the front plane to create a new sketch. And in this sketch I'm gonna draw like the profile of a bat. Let's see. Okay, let's suppose that this is the shape of a bat. I'm gonna exit this sketch. And now in the features module, instead of doing an extrusion, the second option is the revolution. So I'm gonna select this sketch here. And then it is asking me the axis of revolution. So the axis of revolution is that axis from which the geometry is it's like going around. So in this case it's this line. I apologize for how ugly this bat is, but it's just to show you the cylindrical geometry that you can create with these revolutions. Now, it is important to notice where the axis of revolution is in a geometry. For example, here we have two geometries that the basic shape is just a circle. As you see in the case of the sphere on the left, we see that the axis of revolution is going through the sphere, in the center of the sphere. Whereas in this donut shape, we have that the axis of revolution is offset, is at a certain distance from the center of the sphere or the circle. So when this circle is going around that axis, it creates this donut. Whereas when this half a circle goes around this line, it will create this sphere. Here in the revolution options, when I did this operation, see that you can modify this angle. Let's suppose that I only want half a bat, or half a circle, or half a revolution. Then I just use 180 degrees, and the thing is, a complete circle or a complete revolution has a 360 degrees, and therefore one half of that is 180. Let's suppose that I want 3/4, so it will be 270 degrees. And that's it. So that's how you can control the amount of the revolution around the axis. And that leads me to the homework for this week. Remember that homeworks are due on Sundays at midnight. Every late submission will receive a 0. Please remember to submit the SolidWorks part files and the PDF files. For this week we have 2 files or 2 geometries. The first one is just a simple extrusion. You will have to create this sketch and then use the extrusion tool to create this 3D geometry. Be careful because in this sketch there are several fillets with radius equal 4, and there are 8 of those fillets. In this corner is 1, in this corner is 2, here you have the third one, here in the bottom you have the fourth, here is a fifth, here is a sixth, seventh, and here 8th. Those are the 8 fillets with radius equal 4. You have these arcs here, one with 50 and the other one with 30. See that the center of those arcs is with this distance here, and it's actually aligned with this vertical line here. So keep that in mind. And look that these distances here, these horizontal distance and these vertical distances, are measured from the center of those corners before you do the fillets. So my recommendation for this is do all the geometry without fillets and leave those for the end. That will make everything easier for you. And then the other assignment for this homework is this geometry. It's kind of a pulley. You just have to create this T-shaped geometry in a sketch and then use the revolution control to create this 3/4 of a revolution. Careful that I'm requesting only 3/4 of a revolution, not the complete revolution. Just to see the section profile, if it's correct or not. Those are the 2 geometries for this homework. I hope you have learned and enjoyed this class. See you next week.